On Twitter. Okay, mismanaging funds, sorry. Mismanaging funds. Sorry, mismanaging funds, sorry. And then, okay, the last question is that you once made claims that you can easily mobilize members of the EFF to join you. And now you are saying that you're going to consult if you can start a political party from South Africans. If they say that you can start a political party, do you think those leaders and members will join you in that party? Thank you.
It's you, the lady with the, yeah.
All right, my name is Tando Mayeko and I'm from the Business Day. Mr. Shivambu, just please explain the banners behind you. I think you forgot to explain the name of this organization. What is it? Is it an NGO? Is it a church? What is it? And then what's this? Just please also kindly explain who is funding this organization. And then is MK still credible? And then just going back on your accusations of an intelligence report that was used against you by the MK national officials. Are you surprised that an intelligence report was used, considering that the State Capture Commission or the Zondo Commission found that former President Jacob Zuma used to use intelligence reports against his political defectors? Thanks.
Okay. Cindy Sontlabati from the Heartland Network. Mr. Floyd, you've characterized your session, your time now moving forward. And I would greatly like to know, in terms of the perspective of the vision of the South Africa that you dream of, maybe if you can give us the ultimate end goal that this is the vision I have, or the vision we have as a collective that you are part of now, in terms of what is the South Africa that you are looking towards. Thank you.
Mr. Shivambu, Doreen Mukhulu here. Mr. Shivambu, Doreen Mukhulu here from Scholar Africa. I just want to find out, you're speaking about fake intelligence. I want to find out, were there any power dynamics within the party, in the MK, that to a point that they had to make the fake intelligence to push you out?
It's a follow-up. Floyd, I asked about the issue of credibility. Look, you on your own admission that having left the EFF, anyone that was perceived to be loyal to you, you believe that they were victimized. Are you still willing to now have more careers being destroyed by joining a new entity that you are forming? Should South Africans still regard you as a credible voice when you have served 11 years in an organization and now you are calling it a personal fiefdom? Where was the foresight then? As an educated man, shouldn't you have figured this out much earlier? And the same attitude would be adopted in case of MK, because you've been there for literally 10 months. That then raises the question of your own personal judgment, that you should have foresaw that there's trouble there, that Mr. Zuma is quite elderly and gullible, as you put it. So it speaks to your own personal judgment. Thanks.
I think that is your opinion. Let's give it to you. It's your own opinion. Like, it's not a question. Like, really, and we can't help you. And different people will have different perspectives in terms of what happens. I do know, Ntsiki, I think in conducting political work, like I think those that we have worked with before, the difficulty that they have is when we have got leadership responsibilities. One, I refuse to have private meetings or private engagements. So there is a lady from Mpumalanga who, I think it's called Mary or something like that. So the first meeting I attended of MK, there was a decision. I didn't even know who she is. There was a decision to expel her, and then another meeting. And actually, in the first meeting, I even said that, please don't expel comrades. It's too early. Let us go and engage with them. And it's in the minutes of MK that said, don't expel her. further engagements and all of those things. Then another decision was taken, but some of the decisions had to be written and signed by me, even when you have expressed a different view inside. Then she asked for a private meeting to brief me. Then I said, I can't do that. And I said it actually in the national officials meeting that majority of times, comrades would want to meet you privately and be buddy-buddy so that they are protected when they do wrong things in the organization. And that is the conduct that we got to deal with. You know, I'm very close to Mzobe. We always say that we've known each other for more than 20 years, but he was head of presidency. When I was doing wrong things, I'll write him a letter that you're not doing your work properly as head of presidency. And wrote it in an organizational report that, yes, and he will also give me criticisms as well that, hey, you're too closed up and all of those things, but that is how organizations are run. You can't run it through friendship in terms of how you then get to conduct yourselves. But if there are other issues, we can be able to listen to that. MK is not tribalist. It's not a tribalist organization. There's no tribalism. I never got to encounter tribalism. But I know there are people who mischaracterize the organization because also it was still at its formative stages. So there are people who truly believe that it's an organization to liberate Zulu-speaking people. So there will be those who will say that. And they will say that to the president. And there are those who believed that, but it's not the overall character of MK. There is extremely brilliant comrades and activists that are in Kontowe Sizwe who understand politics properly, organizing, mobilization, and there's never been a problem of tribalism which can be elevated. I know there was an incident now of Teniso, brilliant young man who is the leader of the MK Youth League. He made a legitimate, honest, innocent mistake about referring to Tsonga-speaking people as Shangan and everything else. They like it. For some people it lands well, for some people it doesn't land well. But I think a substantial number take it derogatory, as a derogatory reference. But he didn't mean bad, like he was not doing it in a vindictive and tribalist way. I know him that Teniso is a proper comrade who has got a bright future in the politics of South Africa. So there's no tribalism in the organization. I don't agree with the analysis of Julius about President Zuma. I don't. I've got to interact with him and all of those other things. But I know there are times where I think former president or former secretary general who worked with him for the longest time in the ANC, Halima Motlanthe, I think when he did an interview with Sizwe, he said that the limitation with President Zuma is that sometimes he can be persuaded about an issue outside of organizational structures and want to take a decision based on what was the persuasion outside of organizational structures. So that becomes a dilemma for any, particularly as a Secretary General, because once you have taken resolutions collectively, your expectation is that you must collectively communicate and defend those resolutions. And that time he has now reconsidered the decisions that were taken before, and then it then becomes difficult to move forward in terms of. I think that observation, which I share, was already communicated by former SG of the ANC, Halima Motlanthe, when President Zuma was in office. So that dynamic is a limitation generally, that he meets way too many people. And in the process, sometimes he meets people and then he says, and then those people interpret that as if he agreed to whatever they were saying. And that is the dynamic. But I don't agree at all that He uses people. He is trusted by the people of KwaZulu-Natal and by the people of South Africa. The journey we're building was to expand the message of what he stands for. And he is not opportunist in terms of how he communicates political principle. Like even in closed spaces, there could be a... I'll give you an example, for instance, that the Moroccan embassy wanted to buy the position of MK to say that MK should support Morocco's operation over Western Sahara. And then there are those closer to him who visited Morocco, were promised money, and then they came back and said, MK must agree with Morocco's operation of Western Sahara. Then when he realizes that they won't understand this, then he called me into the meeting. Then said to the Moroccan ambassador and political secretary that we are not going to agree with you. If we are going to have engagements with the Kingdom of Morocco, we must talk to the SADR here and the Polisario Front, which is the liberation movement, fighting for the liberation of Western Sahara. And then we agreed on that principled positions. I wrote a letter on the 27th of March to the Polisario Front to say that the president will engage with you before he engages with Morocco, because it's now 50 years since the operation got to happen over Western Sahara by Morocco. And you saw what happened. Immediately we were suspended. What is that? Not suspended, that thing of redeployed. Then the Moroccan government issued a statement which is undersigned by Mkhonto Wesizwe to say that Mkhonto Wesizwe supports its operation over Western Sahara. No meeting to discuss that, no national high command, no officials. Someone just says, and the people who did that, it's those who went to Morocco. Like, that is basically the whole thing. Like, there's no, and in the official record, in the minutes of the National High Command, is that President Zuma is going to mediate a discussion between Western Sahara Liberation Forces and Morocco to find a settlement. It has been going in for a very long time. But after, immediately we leave, because they couldn't do that in our presence, obviously. They couldn't. Then they saw an opportunity that, yeah, now we're going to maybe press that jukebox or to sing for us. And then and you can see that statement, which is issued in the name of MK, is written by the Moroccan embassy here in South Africa, to impose a position on MK on the basis that there will be money exchanges. And that is what happens. Also, even with this, you remember when we did a press conference, Muslim Judicial Council. So part of these scoundrels, they go to speak to the Muslim Judicial Council and say, no, please go and speak to President Zuma. In terms of the whole issues, I wouldn't make reference to Zondo, the judge. Like, I have no respect for Zondo, zero. And he actually made me to have much more deeper respect for President Zuma. Like, I have no respect for that nonsense of state capture inquiry nonsense that happened. I've got no regard, none whatsoever, of those. It can't be my point of reference on anything. Like, even the whole decision to get President Zuma arrested was absolute rubbish. Even that time, as a deputy president of the EFF, I condemned that. I took international interviews and domestic. I even wrote articles publicly to condemn what Zondo did in terms of arresting of President Zuma. I will never make reference to that as a basis of anything else. He was used by the capitalist establishment to fight wrong battles. He was not a judge, he was just an instrument of capitalism and for wrong purposes in terms of what happens. Funding for what? When we don't have an organization, we are going to listen. We're in a listening session. we're in a listening session, and if MK thinks that listening is a cause for termination of membership, so be it. It's not the first time. Like my membership of the ANC, I was not even expelled in the ANC, I was suspended. And I left. You know, this thing of political parties thinking that people are desperate for their membership must come to an end. And that people must beg for membership. If anything, political parties must be honored that they've got members and respect them. Not that you must be begging for membership of a political organization. I left the ANC when it was above 63% in parliament, in control of all provinces, was possibly the only employer. Had influence and lots of friends and people that I knew throughout my life left. I left the ANC voluntarily when it had power. Why would I be perturbed about being expelled by Mkondo who doesn't have power? Like, what will be like? That is the issue. I don't beg membership of political organizations. I deal with these issues differently. You know, I used to say all the time to the DSG of Mkondo Sizwe that let's do our work. People can say whatever they want to say, they can scream and everything else. We take decisions, we implement, we go towards that are having by-elections. Before we went towards, the MK never used to win by-elections. We used to go towards to preside over volunteers, without photos, without cameras, and pay attention to every little detail, and then we started to win wards. And then some people from parliament, they go a day before elections and they take photos there and they say, hey, we've delivered the ward. After we've delivered it, Richmond we delivered. What the was we delivered? Mandeni we delivered. Like, and we did the work, and 3 months before the by-elections happens, we go there every week. And as we can't be entertaining who says what and everything else. I actually even told one of the provincial coordinators who said, hey, SJ, there are people who are talking about you here. They say you must be removed. I said, oh, man, don't ever send me such a message. Leave those things. If there's a decision to remove me, they will take it, but I'm not going to be sitting down and worried about removal and everything else. Now, we take